You know, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. Canada is not the same country it was even 5 years ago. And right now, the ground is literally shifting under our feet. Forget polite debates, forget academic think tanks. This is a full-blown political earthquake rolling across the prairies. Here's the shocking part. Alberta has already crossed the line. Independence is no longer a what if, it's machinery that's already running. Petitions, referendums, sovereignty frameworks, all of it is in motion. And if you think this is just a bargaining chip, you're not paying attention. Alberta isn't bluffing anymore. They've built the tools to walk out the door, and the people have lined up behind them. But here's where things get even more explosive. It's not just Alberta anymore. Saskatchewan is staring at the same choice, and it's a brutal one. Either join Alberta in cutting free from Ottawa, or, if blocked, cross the border and become America's 51st state. No middle road. No status quo. Just two doors, and both of them slam shut on Confederation. Think about what that means. Saskatchewan, a province that pumps almost 500,000 barrels of oil a day, that sits on mountains of uranium, potash, and wheat, that literally powers global agriculture and nuclear energy, being forced into a corner. This isn't some tiny backwater province. This is a resource giant. And yet Ottawa has reduced it to a colony. Rules, taxes, restrictions, always choking, never supporting. Farmers in the province will tell you straight. Fertilizer limits tie their hands while U.S. competitors rake in profits. Oil patch workers will tell you that every regulation from Ottawa means smaller margins, fewer jobs, more despair. Truckers crossing the border know their livelihoods depend on U.S. demand, not Ottawa handouts. The reality is so obvious. Saskatchewan already functions economically as part of the United States. Ottawa just hovers overhead, skimming money out of their paychecks. And Premier Scott Moe? He knows it. He's already signaled he won't stop the people if they want to vote. And here's the kicker. The threshold to trigger a referendum in Saskatchewan is barely 125,000 signatures. Grassroots organizers already claim they're within striking distance of that number. Once that petition lands, Ottawa can scream all it wants, but the ball is rolling. Now, here's the part that Ottawa doesn't want you to hear. If independence fails because the feds drag it through the courts or refuse to negotiate, statehood isn't just fantasy. It's the survival plan. Quietly, Washington has been watching all of this unfold. Why? Because the U.S. needs energy badly. They consume about 19 million barrels of oil every single day, but they only produce around 13 million. That leaves a 6 million barrel shortfall. Guess who's sitting right next door with the ability to plug that gap? Alberta and Saskatchewan. And it's not just oil. Saskatchewan's uranium is indispensable for nuclear power. Its potash is a lifeline for American farmers. In other words, Saskatchewan isn't knocking on the door of the U.S. The U.S. is ready to roll out the red carpet. Governors from border states have already been holding informal talks. Washington insiders admit, if Ottawa plays hardball, they'll deal directly with prairie leaders. That's the part Ottawa's terrified of. Not only could they lose Alberta and Saskatchewan politically, but economically, the two provinces would instantly tilt south. Equalization? Gone overnight. Ottawa's budget? Torn open with a $20 billion crater. Quebec and the Atlantic provinces would be left holding an empty bag with no one left to bankroll their spending. That's not a crack in Confederation. That's the foundation collapsing in real time. And you know who's the face of Ottawa in all this? Prime Minister Mark Carney. A man whose entire career has been built on climate dogma, net zero, carbon caps, fertilizer limits, transition plans that crush prairie industries while central Canada applauds. Out west, Carney isn't seen as a problem solver. He's seen as the guy holding a knife to their economy. And every time he talks about unity, people laugh because they know he's not listening. Let's be blunt. The people out here aren't waiting anymore. They've been through decades of consultations, committees, and panels that went nowhere. They've seen pipeline projects suffocated under Bill C-69, tankers banned from the BC coast, emissions caps killing investment before it even starts. And they've realized the ugly truth. Ottawa isn't trying to fix the system. Ottawa is deliberately punishing them. And once you believe that, once trust is gone, there's no turning back. I've been in the town halls. I've seen the crowds. These aren't fringe agitators. They're farmers, truckers, students, retirees, oil patch workers. They're packed into gyms, lined up out the doors, demanding answers. They're not just angry anymore, they're organized. And that's why this time, it feels different. This isn't noise. This is a movement. And here's the suspenseful part: Saskatchewan's future is still the open question. Alberta's already gone in spirit. But Saskatchewan's path is the cliffhanger. If they secure independence, they'll march shoulder to shoulder with Alberta in building a new Prairie Alliance. If Ottawa blocks them, they'll pivot south and join the U.S. Either way, Saskatchewan leaves. There's no scenario where they volunteer to be Ottawa's last piggy bank once Alberta exits. That would be political suicide for any premier, and the people would never forgive it. So what happens next? Ottawa is scrambling. Ministers rush to microphones, calling it reckless, un-Canadian, a threat to unity. But behind closed doors, they admit the truth: the West isn't bluffing anymore. And once Alberta and Saskatchewan walk, Confederation as we know it is finished. Think about what the map could look like in 5 years. Do we see two new independent prairie nations side by side, building their own destiny? Or do we see two new stars stitched onto the American flag, firmly tied to Washington? Either way, Ottawa loses. Either way, the prairies win. And future historians will look back on this moment, the petitions, the town halls, the defiance, as the point when the prairies finally decided survival, prosperity, and dignity were worth more than Ottawa's empty promises. And here's where things get even more interesting, because Alberta's gamble isn't happening in isolation. Every move Danielle Smith makes is being closely watched by Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and even British Columbia. If Alberta manages to secure a better deal with Washington, or if Trump's administration signals stronger support, the domino effect could reshape Canada's entire West. This story is only getting bigger, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. If you're finding this breakdown valuable, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when the next chapter in this unfolding saga drops. Because the future of Alberta, and maybe Canada itself, could change overnight.